Good morning. So I wanted to answer a couple of questions that had come in relative to exporting CBCT image files and uploading to Beam readers, and also how it works with Beam readers. So thanks for asking. Hopefully this method of getting the information out to you is helpful. Also, there are a bunch, hopefully you've come across them, a bunch of different videos that I've got on my YouTube channel here that should hopefully help. Hopefully, at least that's the purpose. So, clinical questions, hoping we could weigh in on with regard to Beam readers are here. Number one, how and in what format are images sent to Beam readers? Okay, so this right here in front of you is actually a Beam readers, one of the reviews they came back with, but let's go ahead and go over to DTX Studio. So here's DTX Studio. I pulled up a test patient, and you'll notice they use these to calibrate the CBCT machine. So let me just demonstrate how to export the file that you need to export so that we can import the file. All right, so we're going to find the actual CBCT image file. Sometimes when you go through DTX Studio and use the diagnose, you'll save a bunch of screenshots. So find the actual 3D image file, right? And it's this one. I'm just going to look at it, make sure I know the time and the date stamp there. I'm going to go over to More. I'm going to export data. Okay, so now it's going to export the data, everything that's within this test file. Let me move this so you can still see me. So everything that's in the test file here, and this would be a patient name normally. Like I said, this is a test patient. So what I would suggest doing is deselect anything you don't want to export. Now sometimes patients will want their 3D files, right? And so you can send them to them. I'm not going to spend all the time deselecting these. So once I've got only the file selected that I want to export, then I'm going to go to the next step. But first, we've got to deselect this anonymized patient. Because if I leave it on anonymized, when I export it and upload it to Beam readers, which I'll show you in a second, they don't know what it is. They don't know whose patient it is, and so they can't give you a report based on an anonymous file. Now they probably could if you requested it, but if we're actually trying to get relevant data, we want to make sure that we deselect that. So this is the format that the image file, the 3D image file, will be exported in. The DICOM. It's a multi-frame digital image file that's basically slices, and it can be anywhere from 170 slices to 300 something slices, and they're usually stacked axially, but the image software reconstructs it to be 3D. The two-dimensional image files are exported here, so we can change that if we want to. 3D, of course, you can change it. Leave it at multi-frame. That's generally what everybody uses. And then make sure you make note of where your files are being exported to. Okay? Once they're exported, you need to go to that location, navigate to it through the Beam readers so that you can upload it. All right, so there's that. And then you click Export. And I'm not going to do it because there are tons and tons and tons of files here. But when you export it, it'll take 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds, depending on your processing speed, for the computer to take the data off of the server and download it now in this location on this computer. Okay? But here's the answer. It exports it to a multi-frame DICOM or single frame. And then for the 2D images, the screenshots, this is what it'll export as. All right, so I'm going to hit cancel. We're going to go back here. So let's just say now we've done the export and we're ready to upload. What we'll do next is we'll go ahead and go over to the actual file that we get back. Uploading to Beam readers, there are a couple of QRGs. It's very, very simple. There should be a walkthrough on how to upload it on the CBCT landing page that was referenced in the email that was sent over. You navigate to beamreaders.com, set up an account. A couple of things that I'd suggest you do: if you have multiple doctors in that office, use the main owner doctor or the main office email as the login, and use the same office email address that you normally have. Office password, so that it's easy. Now, if you have multiple providers, you're going to want to multiple doctors. You're going to want to add them as referring doctors inside that file. And it's not hard to do. You just got to go to practice setup and walk through it. It's really pretty simple. Beam readers is a very, very simple user interface. But once you've downloaded the file to your computer, as I demonstrated before, then you go through the Beam readers login and you upload the file, and then you get a report back. And let me see if I can find the report. So this is an example of a report. And you'll notice I blocked out the patient's information so this can be shared more broadly. So if you'd like to, you can share this with other people who may be interested. But this is a report that was sent out in January this year. There are a couple things when you are inputting a report, when you're uploading a file to Beam Readers. You want to make sure that you select the purpose of your the reason you want Beam Readers to be looking at this image. Otherwise, they'll kind of give you a general review, which is fine, and they'll certainly catch things that are out of the ordinary. But if you're wanting them to zero in on pathology, which is what the purpose of this review was, this report was, then you want to make sure that you isolate or focus on that and click that pathology. And then add notes. These are the notes that I typed into the little dialog box. Patient presented with what appeared to be a draining fistula at the left palatal vault. Asymptomatic otherwise, no visible intraoral extraoral expansion. Please evaluate anterior maxilla and entire scan for possible pathologies. So then the oral and maxillofacial radiologist goes through and starts to review it. And they do some general thoughts here. There's an expansile mixed density entity in the left anterior maxilla, extends from the midline, et cetera, et cetera. You can read through this if you want to. And then they give you some specific impressions. You'll notice that they also included sinus, airway, C-spine, alveolar bone. If you have a patient that has periodontitis, they'll identify if they've got bone loss. There's generalized, moderate, limited bone loss in these areas, which can be very helpful for insurance. So taking a step back, I would suggest for any new patient that's older than 18, given the need, to take a full 3D scan. Because if you end up diagnosing periodontal disease and you get insurance pushback, you don't have periodontal disease or they don't want to pay your claims, one of the last triggers we can pull is actually having an oral and maxillofacial radiologist review that CBCT and diagnosing alveolar bone loss. How is the insurance going to turn it down if you have an oral and maxillofacial pathology radiologist review a 3D x-ray that indicates bone loss? That's kind of a slam dunk. Anyway, so moving on, you'll note the impression here. So for this patient, once this report came in, we immediately called the patient and referred them to an oral surgeon for a biopsy. And I'll check and follow up and see where they're at. This was back in January, so we should hopefully have some resolution by now. I think my associate was the one that was handling this. So that's the gist of the report. Now they also include some of the images, and you can see the area that we were concerned with right here, left anterior maxilla. They've included some airway evaluation here, which is their software. This is not ours. This is not DTX Studio. Some more images, a little axial plane image there of the anterior maxilla. Same thing, we've got some resorption of that anterior root. And some more images here. So lots of images. So ultimately with this, what the disposition was of this particular case was call the patient, immediately refer them to an oral surgeon for a biopsy. Now we probably would have done that anyway, but having this, which we emailed to the patient's mother, this was a young lady in her late teens, but having this particular report that we could send to the mother that we could give to the surgeon, now the surgeon knows exactly what they're looking at. And I believe we also exported and gave this file to the patient on a little thumb drive. So these files are about 200 to 500 megabytes depending on the exposure settings that you have. Let me see. Okay, how and in what format are the images? 3D or DICOM like we talked about, multi-slice DICOM. What level of reporting? Pretty good detailed reporting. And you can ask, again, there are a bunch of tick boxes when you upload it to Beam Readers, what reporting you want them to focus on: airway, TMJ, sinuses, pathology. What's the charge per scan? So when you're new to Beam Readers, you get three free scans, meaning you can upload 3 scans and get this type of a report for free 3 times. And it's tracked. If you get an invoice from Beam Readers to the office or to your email, which is what happened to me, just send it on to the appropriate AR, accounts receivable people, and they'll get it taken care of. And normally what I did is I just responded and I said, hey, this should be going to our corporate support office partner, and they immediately fixed it. It's just kind of a system-generated email. So after the first 3, then the charges are $85 each, which is a really minimal charge. It's pretty reasonable, not a big deal. I just pass that same fee on to the patient. So if I go through 3D and I diagnosed and identified a concern for that patient, I'm going to sit down in the room with them after I've reviewed it and say, there's something here, like with this patient we have here on the screen. I'm not sure what it is. This looks like it could be something that might require additional treatment. I'd like to have an oral and maxillofacial radiologist look at the 3D image. The cost for that referral is $85. Are you comfortable with that? Or we can have the BC do that. I haven't had a patient yet say, no, I'm not paying for that, especially if they can see in the image this big black splotch that's there, just to make sure that they're aware. So, all that being said, I think having this 3D modality available to our patients sorry, I got a Chick-fil-A Coke, Diet Coke. Having this 3D modality available to our patients is a dramatic blessing, not only to us as clinicians, but to them and to their health. It's really, really critical that we're using it to the full capacity. And there are a whole lot of resources on the CBCT landing page that you should really try to take advantage of. And more is being added every day. But please let me know what questions, what concerns you have, anything I can help you with. I'm happy to provide more data like this. And if you have questions, let me know. Some of the review processes for CBCT images can get kind of cumbersome, but there are some processes, again, on the landing page that are helpful. But hopefully this has been helpful to you. Thanks for watching. I'm sorry if I drone on for too long, but good luck.